Good evening to all of you. Thank you for joining us for this hour. And we're glad to start talking about the chapter. We are the OWASP Viña chapter. We are located in Chile. We founded the charter a year ago, and we are located in the region of Valparaíso. This region is famous for being part of the UNESCO historic corridor for protection. We also are the region we had the Chilean National Congress since 1990, and the region incomplete had around 300 persons. How we create this charter? Basically, we create this charter because in the past Chile only had one charter, and we contact to the OWASP World in United States and follow the handbook or charter. I invite you to create another charters in Chile because currently we have only two. Santiago chapter is located in the Santiago area or the region, the metropolitan region, and the region of Valparaíso or charter Viña. That means you have the possibility to create another 11 chapter in another 11 region. It's the same for you in your born country or your city you are living currently right now. What is the process for that? Basically, you contact with our global world, and in the global world composed with people around the world, it's going to read you through apply and you request to create a new chapter, and based on your curriculum or resume, they are considering you are a great value for this organization. OWASP also had the opportunity to join us in three ways. The first one is be a chapter leader. The second one is like a project leader, and the third one is pay, basically a membership for support all the open project we had. When you pay the membership, you have really a good benefits. For example, have a corporate OWASP email address, and the cost of the membership are relatively cheaper compared to another organizations. And the third one is be a project leader in OWASP. That is the three ways to be part of OWASP Foundation. Also, if you don't want part of us, but you want to donate to open web application security projects, please be free to do that. Now, I am from Venezuela and the chapter is located in Chile. Yes, that is possible. That is possible. Born in one country and create a chapter in another country where you are currently living. And this hour, I want to focus in the extra values of the immigrants around the world. And from that, our first talk is in charge of Patricia Valdivia from Peru. She is assistant engineer with a master's degree in cybersecurity and more than 6 years of experience in technology, security, and IT compliance projects. As CISO of the Ministry of Culture in Peru government, also ISO lead auditor and lead implementer. And Paola Perez from Venezuela. She is computer system engineer with a master's degree in cybersecurity, manager of the Center for Women in Technology in Latin America, former chair of the Internet Society and Landings in Mars. Also collaborate with international organizations such as the Interpol and the GSMA in training of children and technology, gender, and cybercrime. Ladies, please share your presentation with us.
Okay, thanks, Gustavo. Thank you for the invitation to share with you in this event. We feel very grateful, and today we are going to talk about why fishing is here to stay. In this presentation, we're gonna review the most prevalent phishing cases today, history, how and why we are deceived, how we must protect ourselves, whether from the most classic to the most advanced phishing, with measure and solution easy to apply by user of any level. As you know, phishing has recently emerged as one of the most commonly used attack vectors by cybercriminals. Uh, it is practice of sending false and unwanted messages or emails that are written to appear have been sent by reputable organizations. This managed to deceive the recipient and redirect them to fraudulent websites to obtain personal information ranging from password to credit card details. Although social engineering plays a very important role in this. Okay, so let's start with a bit of history. The term phishing comes from the English word phishing. The word is a contraction of password harvesting phishing and describes the acquisition of confidential information through deception. Also, the reason why phishing is spelled with PH and not F is because the first hackers were known as freaks. The term phishing first appeared in January 1996 on the Hacker Quarterly 2600 newsgroup, was adopted by those trying to gain access to the account of Member of America Online, that is an internet service provider company. So, what is phishing? Surely, many are already familiar with this term. Phishing is an art. It's the art of deception, accompanied by social engineering, whereby impersonating identity through an email, WhatsApp, or a fake web, we try to capture data. Uh, how and why is phishing so effective? In this section, we want to mention a very interesting book called Thinking Fast and Slow, published in 2011, where the author Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize in Economics for his work, a pioneer in psychology on the rational model of decision making. His book offers us a revolutionary perspective of the brain and explains the two systems that shape how we think. First, the system one is fast, intuitive, and emotional, while system two is slower, deliberative, and logical, which reveals that influence of intuitive impression on our thinking and behavior when formulating our judgment and decision. System one operates automatically and quickly, with little or no effort and no sense of voluntary control. Uh, some automatic activity that we attribute to system one, for example, we have detect that one object is more distant than another, make a disgust face when shown a horrible picture, or detect hostility in a voice, or answer the result of to 2 plus 2. The capabilities of the System 1 give us innate skill that to prepare us to perceive the world around us. Uh, Knowledge is stored in memory and accessed without intention or effort. Meanwhile, the System 2 focuses attention to the effortful mental activities that demand it, including complex calculation. Uh, their operations are often associated with a subjective experience of acting, choice, and concentration. And they have one feature in common, that they require attention. For example, no, brace for the starter gun in a race or focus on the voice of a particular person in a crowd and nicer room or place. Park in a narrow space compared to washing machines for overall value. Uh, the problem is that usually the human body doesn't always use system 2. So we use system 1 for taking decisions that we consider unimportant and that can be resolved quickly. So if we receive dozens of emails a day, many people don't have time to sit down and think about whether each email is legitimate or not. And that's when we don't make a rational decision and respond automatically with little effort like system 1. So, a question. How could we think that an email is suspicious when it looks exactly like all the emails we have received from a certain service? Uh, Most anti-phishing training focus on verifying the URL is correct or or hovering over the links. These are activities that require analysis and use of System 2, but being somewhat repetitive and known to us, we already consider it unimportant, what makes us vulnerable. For example, a cybercriminal who calls his victim with the intention of impersonating the Security Administration identity, he explained that he called from the CPD and indicated that he had received alerts of abnormal network behavior immediately from his computer. So he needs to connect remotely to verify what is happening, and that's require your access credential. Because these details fit with our stereotypical image associated with a security administrator, so it's more likely reveals access credential. So then we think if we have SSL certificate, do we have secure website? Uh, Having an SSL certificate ensures that any data sent from a user to a server or the other way around is being properly secured thanks to use of public key cryptography. And it is on absolutely any type of website that will appear to be to be more trustworthy to the visitors. While efforts to encrypt the web by implementing HTTPS on websites are admirable, general user understanding about this technology remains low. Um, Most mobile browsers display a secure marker near the address bar of sites that have successfully made use of an SSL certificate, which attackers have used to convince users that their phishing domain is secure in more general sense. Many users mistake this information as validation by Google or Apple that the site itself is authentic. However, you should know that having an HTTPS guarantees a secure transmission of data, but does not guarantee that the website is secure. Organizations such Let's Script and SSL for free have been offering this certificate to website owners for free. providing a zero-cost way for attackers to bolster the perceived legitimacy of their phishing page and subsequently the efficacy of their attacks. Actually, the FBI issued a statement of July 19 in 2019, warning that cyber actors exploit secure websites in phishing campaigns. Well, uh, we're going to show some common type of phishing that usually affect normal internet users. For example, the banking phishing. In this case, we have an email with the supposed identity of Wells Fargo Bank, where we have warned about an unusual activity of our account or an operation error, and invite us to access by a link. But if we notice, number one, not a Wells Fargo email address. The email address does not include the domain name, wellsfargo.com, and something like comcast.net appears instead. Number two, they are asking to take some action urgently. The email includes an urgent request in the subject section, and the message says something like for your protection and for your reason, for your security reason. They may also contain extra spacing or unusual punctuation in addition to another red flags. Number three, suspicious URL. The email contains a link to a known Wells Fargo URL, which could be a fraudulent website. So if you are using a laptop or desktop computer, you can check the link URL by hovering over the link, and the URL will appear in your browser window. Another technique, like email, is the SMS phishing or smishing. In this case, we have number one number. It's a suspicious sender. The text message was sent from an unknown phone number instead of one of Wells Fargo official short code, like 93557, 93733, or another one. Number two, unusual text types. The text message contains a number of unusual text types, such as fully capitalized words, arrows, identification numbers, and exclamation marks. Number three, non-induced identity request. The request to verify the identity of the recipient was not induced. Wells Fargo will only ask you to verify your identity using an access code after an action you have initiated, such as after logging into the internet banking or sending money. Okay. Phishing on instant messaging. Leaving aside web attacks via email, which are mostly more corporate attacks, we can talk about instant messaging phishing. For example, the WhatsApp campaign may frequently use the secure SSL certificate technique. When the user clicks on one of these links within WhatsApp, he or she is taken to a page that appears to be limited time offer for a particular brand. These pages hosts contain offering some kind of incentive for the user to complete a short questionnaire, typically employing a fake timer or countdown to instill a sense of urgency in the target. These pages often also make use of mock Facebook comments, creating a false sense of social proof that these promotions are legitimate. Many of these fake commenters even express apprehension about the legitimacy of the page, only to later post that they have successfully completed the offer and have now received their reward. Some even include picture of the gift as further evidence. Most of these campaigns will aim to extract sensitive information from the target, from personal data such as name, address, and phone number, to even more dangerous forms of personally identifiable information, such as credit card information. Oh, cybercriminals use cloud service to send phishing attacks. Drawback. In this case, it is shown that we have received three important documents. Normally, this type of emails are sent in bulk and expect to obtain a large number of victims. Or OneDrive, no? That also it is a storage like Dropbox, but it's from Microsoft. Um, eh, with this access key, the password, a cybercriminal could access other services such as Office 365, uh, Skype, or Outlook. So, then my colleague Paola gonna be with you.
Yeah. Can you see my presentation? So I'm going to talk, thank you, Patricia. I'm going to talk about specific phishing during COVID-19, that there is no doubt that phishing is a prevalent and effective threat. Cybercriminals are implementing new tactics for all phishing scams, and in this case, they're using the COVID-19 concern of people seeking around information related to the pandemic. The last April 16, Google reported that they blocked more than 80 million phishing emails, blocked more than 240 million spam messages. Both were related to COVID-19. According to the checkpoint, more than 51,000 domains with coronavirus-related topics have been registered between January and March of this year. Additionally, almost 95% of the COVID-19 related attacks were phishing involving websites with the word corona and COVID in its domain. Also, files with corona name, files that have been distributed with coronavirus related subjects in their emails. So some campaigns are that we see and exploit during COVID-19 were the Lucky Bot. That was a phishing campaign that impersonates the transport company FedEx, claiming sometimes was DHL2, and they were claiming to provide the victims information about the company during the COVID-19 outbreak. And the email contained an attachment called customer advisor.pdf.x, which when it opened, infects the victim with a malware. Also, we saw the Netwire, which is a phishing campaign too, that impersonates UNICEF and provide a supposed guide to protect yourself from COVID-19. And the email has that ARJ document attached with an executable that downloads the malware. Also, Karpetsky, for example, identified a campaign that uses phishing emails emulated by the Center for Diseases Control and Prevention, the CDC, and contain domains that cdc-gov.org and cdc-gov.org. In one case, this URL contained the phishing email led to a fake Microsoft Outlook login page designed to convince victims to enter their credentials, and in some cases, victims were asked to donate bitcoins to the fake CDC and assist in the share to assist in the search for a vaccine. So how can I reduce, or we can reduce the probability of becoming a victim of phishing attacks? For example, we shouldn't complete trust on email addresses. Like, we always have to question the intention of the email content too. If you receive an email that looks suspicious with a link for a no contact, we must confirm that the email is legitimate. We can call or send an email to the contact. Also, it's important to check the misspellings, because all the type of emails often have a variety of spelling or grammatical errors. Don't trust on a website that just because it has the green lock or the HTTPS in the address bar of the browser. For the final comments, phishing is constantly evolving and is the most detected and most dangerous threat. It has a great focus on mobile devices for greater use, and we don't pay as much attention to them as we pay attention in our computers. And also, there is still a lack of awareness. One security weakness in the infrastructure of email is the ability of any sender or host to identify themselves and their email as any domain they want. It's kind of like how people have created ton of Donald Trump Twitter account, for example, and this makes it difficult for receivers to trust that a message is actually from who it says it's from. So also makes senders uneasy knowing anyone out there can send mail from their domain and potentially damage their brand's reputation. So fortunately, we know a simple, not secret trick to protecting your brand's reputation, and it's called Sender Policy Framework. That is an email reputation lifesaver. So the SPS is stored in a TXT record in the DNS, while SPF won't prevent spying. It can serve as a deterrent and make you less vulnerable to attacks. Who doesn't want this, right? That's why we encourage all email clients to create an SPF record. Combined with sender ID, for example, or the DKIM, DMARC. Also, SPF provides an extra level of email security that will better support your users by helping ISPs properly identify your email and in turn the spammers. So we want to also share something about the 3 different type of authentication factors are like priority. So refer to when you talk about 2-factor authentication. So the first one is something that you know, that typically is your password, for example. The second one is half, that is related to something your physical possess. For example, the 2-factor authentication phone apps. And the third one is something that you are, that is like biometric data. So on the internet, we mostly tend to use no for more secure services have, because biometric data is not really an standardized API on the web yet, for example. So it's kind of like of the only option that we have. And if we want our users to be safe, even when they try to give their credentials away, we need to tie these factors to the domain that's requesting the information. So rather than just giving them out as if they are shared secrets. So, well, we start using the SSL client certificate, that this is the client equivalent of the server certificate to use over HTTPS. The server requests our certificates and the user machine serves it up. So kind of like cookies, but without all the downside of cookies. And they are not a single shared secret being pasted around everywhere. They actually use public key private crypto, and the secrets stay on your machine. They are like a super great experience because you don't even know that you are sending them most of the time. and the pretty difficult to unintentionally is because you have to go digging around in your computer, trust, or think even most like, oh, I'm great, everything is software engineers. So probably we are going to think twice before sending that to a random person. But the problem is that with the client certificate is that they are similar to a password and they are long-lived. So access to its client certificate even means that you have lost access to that service. What we really want here is the same type of one time of two-factor authentication itself. Ideally, this second factor is going to need to have some cryptography as well, because otherwise it can be phish. So luckily, there's a protocol to this that is called UTF, that it was released a couple of years ago, and essentially the idea here is that you provide a security key or to a security key, so I use device that itself is a second factor of authentication. So the way it works is when I go to a page that uses U2F authentication, the service generates a challenge, and my browser sends down the challenge and the domain that's requesting the challenge. So the security key signs a response to it using a private key that just on the chip itself, and it signs responses that includes both the domain and the challenge. So this means the credential it generates is only valid for the domain that asks for it. What this means is even if I manage to convince a user to tap on that key, which is like super easy, so it doesn't actually help because they are generated as secret that's valid on evil.com but not on good.com. So when I try to pass it through as an attacker, it won't validate. Helpfully, a couple of services have started aiding support of this. For this, for example, we see Google, Dropbox, Facebook working on this already. So anyone can fall for phishing because at the end we are all human. So a well-crafted phishing attack imposes a real danger to all organizations. Training, for example, is only going to help user and is in a pretty limited set of scenarios, but luckily is and actually possibly to protect your users without them knowing that you are doing it. So there are technical solutions that prevent or mitigate phishing. So basically, let's be a superhero and protect our people. Thank you so much, and thank you for this opportunity today.
Thank you, ladies. I don't know if somebody had a question for this about this presentation in the chat. No? Okay, thanks again. And now I am giving a talk about automation model. About my experience, like mentioned before, I am from Venezuela and engineer on system, OWASP trainer, chapter leader, project leader, research for the IEEE. We are published paper and member of peer review for white papers with Cloud Security Alliance. Okay, first, before we go to automatic threat modeling, we need to review some concepts. The first one is vulnerabilities. The majority of us, we know about CWE. For example, it's common weakness enumeration, and we also know another list of vulnerabilities called KPEG, or common attack pattern enumeration. These two, at least vulnerability weakness, But one focus in the, for example, CWE is focused in the weakness in the product on the software. In CAPEC, for example, is about the attack you can is also in different related. So, for example, the software was made, the technology used. Yeah. Besides that, and how this works before we pass another subject or point, basically you try to consult some information about a specific field in security, and you can see different subjects related but domains of attack. A domain of attack is focus, CAPEC, in the more common attack the hacker or pen tester do for testing application, for example, brute force, API manipulation, authentication abuse, yes, authentication bypass, intersection, buffer manipulation, and CWE, for example, you have things related to software development. But this is no possible attack. These are possible problems you have when you create the software. For example, data protection or data processing errors, data integrity issues, or complexity or issues. But what happened? Currently, right now, we also need to investigate about another technology, for example, Docker, Kubernetes, containers, and the cloud or the Center for Information Security create also a list of vulnerability you need also know for resolve the problem or try to create a threat modeling. Besides that, you have the part of the compliance. The compliance, we have different compliance in different parts of the world. For example, or we have United States or IPA. And basically, IPA is focused in protect the data, yes, in healthcare institutions or the data or the people related in one treatment or healthcare. And for that, we also need to review all the points about the compliance related to the data we are going to protect depends on the purpose of the application is going to have. Yeah? But after we review standard for Dockers, compliance about the data, CAPEC information about the possible attack for make the surface attack in the train modeling, and also review web page related to vulnerabilities, for example, CVE or CWE, for see the more common list of vulnerabilities we need to face when we develop an application, we need to calculate the risk of the things we are going to, or this list of vulnerabilities we found. And we can do that using the OWASP risk rating, and basically you accurate the target of one application, define different elements. For example, the skill level of exploit vulnerability, the awareness, the intrusion detection you're using, and based that you can calculate the factor or risk of the vulnerability and also the danger or the possible attack. The factor it is vulnerability you. And finally, we need to review some old concept about UNL or Unified Modeling language. This language was around 10 years ago, and there I focus in create a specific list or diagrams in all the related applications development more easy to understand for developers, QA persons, and different companies work in this process. And basically, how mentioned before, these diagrams was used for analysts, designers, coders, testers, QA, test customer, and technical authors. This was the evolution of the basic diagram we had in the past. For example, the basic diagram on and this more famous diagram we had in this language was class diagram. Class diagram define the structure of one class, for example, and they define the attributes, they define the function, they define the object-oriented programming based in the classes in the code. We have also the component diagram. The component diagram based in, for example, my computer is a component, the web page is a component, the database is a component. In this diagram, one for the idea, we can count and see all the specification we have based in that diagram. And from there, for manual time modeling, you can use OWASP Dragon time modeling. You can download, and you can also using like a web page or a desktop application. But for make that, you need to know first the list of vulnerabilities. Well, second, the list of vulnerability first of the software. After that, the possible attack. Later, the security related to the containers, Docker, and now the Kubernetes. About the compliance about the data, and also you need to know about cloud security. And calculate the risk and estimate the possible damage you are going to receive with this. What happened with the manual trend modeling? With the manual trend modeling, basically we face the problem is if, for example, you had a development for you need to deliver it in 1 week, you basically don't have too much time for make that trend modeling manual because you need a lot of information to collect. You can create then, or after that, the idea of the automated trend modeling work. In the automated trend modeling work based in had a central database with the vulnerabilities list, the Docker, and also the vulnerabilities in Docker, cloud, the calculated risk, giving me the power of the diagram, the components, and the data flow we have in between the components, and save time. And also, the manual trend modeling incorporate the OWASP control. And the control basically are a standard or a checklist you need to review when you are going to design an application. Well, and if you're checking this requirement during the development, it's possible to you to lower the complexity of the errors between the parts. Okay, for example, to how to use automated trend modeling, I invite you to go to this URL, this community edition or a tool or automated trend modeling. you can make the register downstairs. You are going to receive an email with your password and your username, or the modification of your password basically. You go inside after the register, and when you have a tool, this is the process of make and a trend modeling manually, but also is a process you can do in this kind of tools. For example, I am going to define this project. This project, I am going to start with the creation of a product. A product is a software. For example, we're going to define campaign for a publish interface. A publish interface for collect a pool about the quality of the service about to them. Campaign software. Okay, right? You can identify that with using one ID, and basically you have all the first step you need to get in your project. First of all, define the ID and the name. When you finish with that, you remember the before the URL is going to us in this kind of tool, or you need to do manually also, but you can have it or incorporate in your process automatic, because you have the necessity to clarify the things you are going to do, or you have related to. For client, define our client. Well, the web client I am going to say is the web client number one. And also define the ID. You define the zona tails or the zero tails perimeter, and for that you can define about you are going to put this web client in an internet, a private secure internet zone, and a public untrusted zone, and a public and third party. Use internet. After that, this is something we will be in trend modeling. After I define the zero trust zone, I need to define, for example, the actives. The actives is the compliance. Remember when we're talking about compliance? Okay, suppose we are going to use the application to make, I don't know, yes, the customer pool satisfaction or client back clients or a clinic. From there, I need to choose protect health information, because we need to follow the IPA statement or protect data for users or patients in the clinics. Also, they ask me again about the IPA standard, mentioned that in the last tab. What is the component I am going to use for authentication function? I am going to use an authentication function already have or no? I'm going to say yes. Manage the secrets. I am going to use cryptography. Yes. How I am going to transport the data? Using an encrypted communication or unencrypted communication? I am going to using encrypted communication level all the entire connection. And after that, I'm going to finalize. Well, but you don't have only a web client. You also have probably a database. We are going to suppose we are going to use MySQL like database. It's the same for the database. You are going to define this concept we reviewed before. What is the kind of possible threat we are going to have from CAPEX? We are going to process the active. We review the compliance. Remember when we're talking about compliance? In this slide, give me a moment. Compliance. Very well. Check the configuration I need to have for complete very well the data. And they ask me, this is only for European Union citizen because I am choose GDPR, I think. Personal information. I am remove that because it's not personal information, it's healthcare information. Okay. From then he asked me again about the process. I am going to authenticate the data. Yes. Or the database in specific using username and password, and how you protect the transportation of the data. And now we have the two components, but follow all diagrams we have in UML. We need to comply or complement this with the relationship or the data flow between the web clients and the database. And from that, I am going to say the data I am going to transport it for healthcare. And this is basically like you make threat modeling. You define the components, you found the sequence of the data flow, and you hack or you need to hack all this data in one person or professional or group of teams. But when you don't have time for that, you need not only define that architecture, you need to have the answer or the possible risks you are going to have. For example, when we check in the section of risks, you can see all the risks associated with the data. Also, catalog indicate the risk, and the reference we have depends on the vulnerability. For example, this vulnerability is about the database we defined before. It's the same for the web client. This in threat modeling we call surface attack, considering all the possible attacks. But the contours, you remember we mentioned the contour before? Well, application security verification standard, you need to also have in your automatic threat modeling because you are going to save time, cost, and you can create your own automated threat modeling using an Excel sheet, for example, with functions and connections. For example, in MySQL, they recommend me to apply a security patch to the service based in the standard in the controls we have related to the vulnerabilities about this component. The compliance. The risk about the compliance is also another things we need to consider, but this in the majority of the threat modeling is not considered because sometimes the person to know all about the compliance is not involved when you development and your threat modeling, and you need to consider this important part of the threat modeling because when you have it, if you don't follow the compliance, it's possible to you be affected. We are fine from European government or association or from the government of United States for not follow the EPA. But it's sad, but in the majority of the projects, the compliance guide or reserve about the compliance is not more important when we developing an application. And finally, you need to have your own quantity and risk you are going to have vulnerabilities associated to them. Well, I hope you enjoy this talk. And if you need to review more advice or more suggestions about application security, I invite you to review this paper. We already have 66 reviews, and it's focused about tips and advice related to developing applications in cloud in a safe way. And that is all for me. I don't know if you have any questions. And if you have, please let me know for answer. John, we have any question?
We have not had any questions come up in the comments, and we are at time. So thank you very much, Gustavo. And we'll be signing off from this stream. Next up is Hour 13, which is hosted by OWASP New Zealand, where I will be your session chair. So see you in 2 minutes in that stream.
That sounds awesome. John live in the best country to live right now. The country of Kiwi in only one active case of COVID.
All right. Thank you so much, Gustavo.
Thank you.
Okay. Signing off.
Bye.